All right, welcome everyone. This is the 14th episode of the Do No Evil, Speak No Evil show, where I interview awesome individuals making a positive local impact. I'm your host, Blair Neher, aka the Chief Primate. Today my guest is Andy Taylor. Andy's the owner of Junk Luggers here in Richmond. Junk Luggers is a junk and debris removal company with a very positive twist and focus. So welcome, Andy.
Thanks for having me, Blair.
Absolutely, man. As always, we got to give a big shout out to our physical host, Optima Med, who has again let us use their table and their facility for the show. Optima Med is a higher education consulting firm based here in Richmond. Optima Med provides college admissions and financial aid coaching for students, with the end game being attendance at the best fit college at an affordable price, leading to the right career. So thanks again, Tom Leahy and Optima Med. All right, man, let's get into it. We have a special guest today.
We do. That's Macy Gray. She kind of goes with me everywhere. Anybody who knows me sort of knows Macy Gray, or vice versa. So
thanks for keeping us safe, Macy. So first things first, I always like to get into a guest's kind of story and passion. So tell us about your story, your passion, and your why, really, and how you ended up starting Junk Luggers here in Central Virginia.
Great. I'm always happy to sort of share that. And I come from a 25-year background, Blair, in corporate America, where I was a regional vice president of sales for a media solutions company. So we designed custom media plans for businesses anywhere from small franchise operations right on up to organizations like Walmart, Albertsons, Supermarket, Kroger, things like that. So I spent a career basically helping other people build their businesses. Mm-hmm. And after 25 years there, I had an opportunity for an early buyout a couple years ago, and took that opportunity and looked around for a couple of things to do. There was a couple boxes that I really wanted to check that were important to me when looking for another sort of write the next chapter for my life. And my wife and I are both passionate about the environment. I believe it's going to be a buzzword that's going to be carried on for a number of years. So we want something that was sort of green focused, if you will, related to the environment, helping the environment, something of that capacity. And also, we've been very fortunate, through the last several decades for our careers, and we wanted an opportunity somewhere we could give back to the community here, both locally and regionally, and something where we could make a difference. And so in looking at that, we ran a couple of opportunities up the flagpole and took, our due diligence to do that. And Junk Luggers sort of appeared to materialize, really, after a number of different opportunities came and went across our desk. And, it was an opportunity to sort of do a business that had been established for quite some time already, but with a sort of a better business model, build a better mousetrap, if you will. And so we did we flew up to corporate and met with the folks up there. They were really passionate about what they do, and had a great business plan, I thought. And it was small enough to the point where, I could have an impact as the business grew, as the organization grew. They were very interested in having my opinion and feedback and ideas and that sort of thing. So that appealed to me a lot. It's not sort of I was number 1100 on the list of franchisees or something. This I can call Josh up and he picks up the phone and says, "Andy, what's going on down in Richmond?" And not like I didn't even know we had an organization in Richmond or something like that. So it was a real pleasant organization there to work with, and been real happy so far.
I'm sure they recognize your experience, and anybody that knows anything, you constantly have to learn a business. So I'm sure they recognize your experience as an opportunity for them to learn off of you.
Yeah, they they had a number of the initial franchisees were what I call operational backgrounds. So people that had either worked in this kind of a business before and saw it as an opportunity to do that. But what they didn't have, I didn't think at the initial point, was a lot of people that had a marketing and sales profession background. And so they're starting to attract quite a bit more of those, even since I've been on this, going on 16 short months. The integrity of the people that they're attracting and the professionalism of those guys, I've really seen an uptick. So it's not just operational level folks, it's people that understand how to build and scale a business.
Nice. Excellent. So let's get into what Junk Luggers does, the business model, and what makes it uniquely positive.
Well, junk luggers, like some of our competitors out there, and the name sort of says it all. Really, we lug junk. We have a little saying: "When in doubt, lug it out." That's on the back of our sweatshirts. But literally, we remove unwanted items from homes and businesses here across the metro Richmond area and elsewhere around the country. But we have a little bit of a twist on it. Instead of racing back and forth to the landfill as fast as we can to try and do sheer volume-focused business, we basically have set up a network of charities here in Richmond that we work with to find a second use or a second home for those items, and provide things that people really want and need that may not have the capability to have those items. It's perhaps shocking to you or to some of the other folks listening that there's people still sitting on milk crates using a pizza box top to balance their plate for dinner each night here in Richmond. And that table and chair set with mismatched cushions or scratches across them or whatever the case is may not be appealing to the person who's trying to get rid of it at the time they're trying to find something new, but it could really be handy for somebody that doesn't have. So the old attributes of one man's junk is another man's treasure is true to heart.
Right. So you donate what you can,
yeah,
and then you also recycle what you can.
Yeah, so not everything's donatable. Obviously, sometimes the chair is broken or it's torn or what have you, and it's even something that can't be used. So we'll take that. We have in addition to the recycling partners, and we use folks like Habitat for Humanity. Caritas is a Christian organization here in town that we donate a lot to. A lot of the homeless shelters that foster, and some of the church groups that foster some of the refugee families, people that need those items. But to your point, when we can't donate the items or they're not in donatable condition, we'll recycle them. And there's we have a place, to go for cardboard, a place for plastic, a place for metal, a place for glass, et cetera, et cetera. And we really never want to go to the landfill if it's at all possible. I mean, nobody's perfect. I can't sit here and say we're 100% out of the landfill, but that's our goal, is to be 100% reusable, recyclable business. And so while my labor may be a little bit more because it takes time to go to 2 or 3 or 4 different places to find a home for each item, the disposal rates are such that I'm able to offset that additional labor costs and then some. And I feel like we sleep a little better at night. Quite frankly, I think my customers sleep a little bit better at night knowing that their items aren't going into the landfill like yesterday's trash.
Yeah, because that's, like you said, it's kind of a pump and dump situation with other junk removal companies.
Yeah, it's a sheer volume play. And here we're about volume is certainly nice when you're trying to scale a business and that sort of thing. But there's a way that you can do the business the right way, the green way, and also the charitable way. And that's, again, hitting that second box that my wife and I are looking for.
Gotcha. Yeah, so keeping the material out of the landfill, that's what it is, material.
Absolutely.
You share that common goal with Tech for Troops. I don't know if you're familiar with that organization, and Marc, Casper. And they take basically any kind of electronic except for tube TVs and printers, and they either reuse that item to help a veteran in need, or they recycle it and take those funds and put it back into the whole Tech for Troops program. If you haven't met Marc, Casper, I'd love to introduce you, because you guys could well have some inlays where he has a need to get rid of some plastic, and because I don't think he's in the same game as you, is trying to find people who are going to buy recyclables, and it's not always. I think you guys would do well. So
about 6 months ago, Marc and I hooked up.
Okay.
And I actually introduced him to an organization called Synapse that I'm a member of here. And actually he and was able to come to some meetings with Keith and with Brian Muka, who you probably know, and they've actually now become one of the hubs for Synapse. But I recognized right off the bat that I wanted to do business with Marc. He's a top-rate guy. His organization has a phenomenal goal in mind to try and keep troops in communication with their families, and I was looking for a home for my e-waste. So I take all of my e-waste that I possibly can down there, with the exception of the items that you talked about.
Yeah, I immediately thought of it when we started talking, and
you and I see the same thing. I agree 100%. He's a great guy, and he's won some really great recent awards as well.
Yeah, he did, and he got a nice big grant here the other day, and I had him on the show probably 5-6 episodes ago.
Awesome.
Good dude. He's completely wrong about who the best lead singer of Van Halen is, though. I hope you're listening, Marc. So you obviously have a soft spot for nonprofits, like a lot of us do in the Synapse community and in the Richmond community. Is that what it was that ultimately drew you to Junk Luggers? Was your ability to?
Again,
or was it all the boxes?
It was a lot of the boxes, but it was the ability to give back, and through charities, through nonprofits. All of those things are ways that, there's a lot of charities that are focused on different aspects of helping people, whether it's just the basics like Caritas, helping people get back on their feet through situations that have led them down perhaps the wrong road or into a difficult, challenging situation. It's providing medical care for people or direction on how to acquire medical care, Medical Homes Plus, and some of the other ones that we know about. But it's the working hand in hand with other people and like-minded people in organizations like Synapse and others is really, I think, the draw. It doesn't feel like work. It feels like you're benefiting others, and the business sort of comes back to you as a result of it. It's kind of hand in hand.
Yeah, and I've had the same experience in Synapse. Every time I'm able to chip in, it ends up paying back multiple fold.
It does.
All right. So do you happen to keep track of all the items you've donated to nonprofits?
I do actually keep track. As whenever I donate an item to a nonprofit, we furnish a tax-deductible receipt back to the customer who we serviced that provided that item or item.
Nice.
Or
so
items.
That passes through to the customer.
That does. I don't get that tax deduction. That goes directly to the customer.
Nice.
Hey. So that passes directly through to the customer, and they're able to take advantage of that if they're in a position to do so. But the number of items that we take, is literally it can be in the hundreds per week.
Oh, wow.
So it's a situation that I couldn't put an exact number on it for you here. I do have a track record of it, but it's got to be in the thousands.
Multiple thousands, though. That's awesome. So some of the stories that interest me most on your timeline are the hoarding stories, where you go in and you clean out a hoarder house. Those just blow my mind, and it's obviously a long discussion about mental health and all that, but share a little bit about that.
So it is unfortunately a disease, if you will. It's not something that is somebody being lazy or sloppy.
Absolutely.
I spend a great deal of time training my team to understand that the inanimate object is not just an inanimate object. There's probably a story behind that, and those folks typically just have a super elevated attachment to that item. And again, it's a mental challenge that they're faced with. And so when you're dealing with something along those lines, you have to have the buy-in from that individual. You cannot go in there and, like in a situation where the family has had an intervention and they're telling the guy he has to get rid of it. That individual has to be coached and educated and on board with it, or quite frankly, in 3 months it'll just be all back like it was.
Yeah.
So and it's incredibly important, I think, for my luggers, that's what I call our guys, to know that that rocking chair may look like a rocking chair, but you cannot take it out and toss it in the back of the truck. That has to be placed there. It might be the rocking chair that their grandmother rocked them to sleep in for ages 2 through 7 or something along those lines. There's a story behind every item, and sometimes our job is just to put our arms around somebody and sit on the back porch and talk them through the process of the fact they have to get rid of these items. They're moving into a smaller house, or they're moving into a retirement community, and they can't take everything that they would like to have with them, but there's personal, emotional attachment to those items, and sometimes it's just taking the time to help somebody through that process.
It's got to be tough, though. If somebody doesn't want that to happen, then it's going to be a battle. So
Yeah.
like you said, you have to have the buy-in or at least the authorization of the family.
Yeah.
But so what are some of the, I think, I can't remember how many like dumpsters, or it was a very small house that resulted in multiple dumpsters. So
we've done some pretty, one of the things about our business is we never know what's going to be behind the door. I mean, you have in talking with the customer when you're making the appointment, you have sort of an interview process you go through, but you don't actually know a lot of times what you're going to see. But this particular one I'd been to myself to do an estimate prior to the guys coming on board, but it was a small 1,800 square foot cape. I think it was 2 bedrooms up and a bathroom, and 3 bedrooms and a bathroom downstairs. And it was 7 truckloads of stuff. Now, we have a big truck. This is not a small pickup truck. This is a 16 cubic yard truck that would carry basically 16 washers and dryers, if you think of something cubic yards. I don't know if I say cubic feet, but it's cubic yards, 16 cubic yards. So it was a lot of stuff. The equivalent then to 120 washers and dryers of that volume. We did literally, to get in the house, I had to climb up from the front doorway into the pile of stuff in my Tyvek suit to begin to crawl through the living room and up close near where the ceiling was to get to the kitchen and be able to see what was in there. The whole time you're trying to estimate just how many truckloads, because somebody's going to want a price for how much this is going to be.
Right, you got to go in there and not
so you got to go in there and
screw yourself on price.
Yeah, you got to go in there and guess about how much labor and space it's going to be to do. Once that's established, you bring your team in, and again, we give them all the tools and whatnot. They've got breathing apparatus and Tyvek suits. In situations like this, there's typically mold and uneaten food, and it can be worse than that. It can be animal feces and the rest. I mean, you just don't know. And long story short, that house, 7 truckloads later, we did it in 8.5 hours. I challenged my guys. I had to set aside 2 days to do that, and I challenged my guys with a $100 bonus if we got the job done in 1 day. And I had 6 folks on the ground, and I shuttled containers back and forth to the landfill. Unfortunately, this was a situation where almost all trash, but we're able to recycle the paper. The landfill is broken down, and they'll take paper in certain areas and that sort of thing. So at least we were able to do it responsibly. But 8.5 hours later, we had that place broom swept. So walk through. There's, my guys will go down to broom swept condition, and they were able to bring their contractors in the next day and start the rehab, and sold the house in about 3.5 weeks.
Oh wow, that's impressive, man.
So this was a situation, unfortunately, where the father had passed away in the house, and the lone remaining daughter in the family was left. She lives in Charlottesville, and had to facilitate the sale of the house. So, I did it all remote through her real estate agent and over the phone, and got it all done.
Nice.
And she was really impressed and really excited about it. So
that's crazy, man.
was.
That's the kind of stuff that glues me to the social media. I'm like, oh my god, that's so gross.
It's a lot of work, but underneath a lot of that stuff, you find some neat things. There are a few antique pieces and an old Victrola record player and some other neat stuff, a comic book collection and things like this. So there's a diamond in every haystack, or a needle in every haystack.
Yeah, a lot of it looked really gnarly.
Yeah,
really, really gnarly.
Hats off to my team again. They get the job done and do it well.
So what is the normal type of item that you find yourself donating? What's on the average every day? What is the normal thing you're handing over to the nonprofits, and which nonprofits?
So typically when I'm dealing with a Habitat or a Caritas type of a donation, it's going to be tables, chairs, bed frames, the stuff that people need to basic needs, to get back on their feet, or to furnish their house, and they're in a situation. These organizations do both. Caritas will provide what they call sort of a dish pack, if you will, which is coffee cups and dishes and utensils and a chair and a table and a bed for each person in the family. So they sort of do it by how many members in the family. Habitat has a restore where they actually will retail items at their store for deeply discounted prices. If you haven't been to the Habitat Restore, please check them out. They've got a location on Roan Street downtown, as well as a new location down on Mall Drive down in Chesterfield at the Chesterfield Town Center. So a little plug for Habitat. They're great partners of ours. At any rate, they retail items there. You can get just about anything, and then they use those proceeds to fund the building of their homes for the disadvantaged. So it's a great option there. When I'm working with the homeless organizations or the church groups to help some of the people that are the refugee families that have settled in the area, it's again just the real basic type stuff. When we get items that are outside of that basic arena, we actually have a warehouse up at our location in Ashland, where we're headquartered, and we warehouse those items. And these can be off-the-wall types of things: power equipment, exercise equipment, really valuable antique type stuff, armoires, entertainment centers, pianos, pool tables, whatever.
Yeah.
And those aren't sort of what I call the basic needs that people need. So we'll actually retail those items. We have a warehouse sale up there once a month. Right now it's on about the third Saturday of the month, weather permitting. And we've sort of named that Second Chance Furniture. And we retail those items, again, at really discounted prices. And then we take that money and we donate some of those proceeds to the Cameron K. Gallagher Foundation. That's our charity of choice for 2018. Another shout out for Synapse Hub. CKG helps kids with depression and anxiety issues. So we are able to donate a nice check to them each quarter and help them with their objectives. So whether we're donating it physically or donating it financially, it all circles back to giving back to the community.
That's smart, because obviously, like, Habitat can't use a treadmill. They don't have the room for that. They don't have the room or the clientele for that.
Right.
That's not, so that's a smart way to use an even smaller segment of your things you remove.
Correct. Yeah. And so it's a way to maximize, and it's sort of done on a really just case by case basis. If I just deem it that it's going to bring more benefit through retail than physical donation, then we'll retail it and donate the money. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of I try to make that call as best I can.
Gotcha. So the last question about actual junk removal. What do you think? Let's talk. So the wildest or strangest items you've removed. So give me a top three.
Top three. So I had an 1889 Singer. You'll like this one. This is an 1889 Singer sewing machine, pristine condition, that we pulled out of a barn in Hanover County. Literally had been there for, 100+ years.
Yeah.
And still had the original owner's manual in the top right drawer. The top left drawer had all the little accoutrements, the little spools and the little oil can that you oiled it with, and all the little tools that you need to operate the machine and adjust the machine, the little wrenches and all that.
Untouched.
Well, it had been used.
Okay.
But it
untouched in 100 years.
Untouched in God knows how many years. And also in the middle drawer was a full sheet of 1943 fuel ration tickets from back in the World War II that still had the chits attached.
Oh my!
So that was pretty cool. So that's probably number one. Right now, I've got at the warehouse another 1890s model baby carriage, and this is a sort of a bassinet, but it's on big wooden wheels, and it's again in perfect shape. The little note that I got in there talks about how this was the lady that donated. This was the carriage that her grandfather was strolled in.
Oh, wow.
So it goes back a significant way as well. And this lady was in her late 70s, so her grandfather was of quite some age.
Right.
So I've got that, and I'm trying to find a neat home for that piece. And then, I don't know, a couple of months ago, number 3 would probably be I pulled out a situation. It was sort of a semi-hoarding situation. This gentleman, unfortunately, had started to go downhill mentally a little bit, and his parents decided it was best to bring him sort of home, and he had an apartment full of items down off of Grove Avenue. But at any rate, he had a Star Wars collection of movie posters, of the action figures and unopened containers that are still all in the boxes. Videos back. This is the laser disc. You remember the laser disc?
Oh my!
Thing, perfect unopened Star Wars laser disc. A nice set of comic books, and a incredibly detailed set of stamps and baseball cards. So I've got a number of items that I'm still pouring through, and that's one of the challenges, is finding the time to be able to go through and see, making sure that you know what you have, and to try and find a home for that kind of thing, because that could really raise a lot of money for nonprofits.
Yeah, especially if that laser disc has Star Wars before Lucas hacked it up the second time. Han shot first.
Sounds like you might need to come up and take a look and let me know.
Well, yeah, then we got to find a laser disc player.
I'll pull it out my next job. Record albums, things like this. So we get a lot of that kind of stuff. I've got a fully brand new Beatles, I can't remember the name of it, but I don't know, 15 or 16 Beatles albums, and it's like a collection or what have you. So
yeah, I need to get up early. It's on a Saturday usually, right?
Usually on Saturdays, and we're going to start actually doing an online presence, so people will be able to shop anytime. But right now, it's I'm physically up there on Saturday mornings, and then people will make appointments to come by and see me, during the week when it's convenient for the both of us.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about e-commerce, about what you're doing there at some point. Cool, man. So let's kind of shift gears into more of the business aspects of everything, and that's a very general statement, but more of the business aspects of your business, and more specifically growth. So you started just 16 months ago.
Yeah, we're still wet behind the ears.
And so you started with one vehicle and one crew, or just by yourself?
I started with one crew that I had developed. When I had the idea, I reached out to a couple of guys that have done some work for me in the past. We got started with one truck, and we were the Fred Sanford show. Sanford and Son.
There you go. I'll give you 5 in the eye.
That's right. I'm coming to join you, Elizabeth.
So how many trucks and crews are you running today, just 16 months later?
So 16 months later, we've got 3 trucks and 3 crews, and we're pretty busy. It was a incredible summer. This is our first full summer, because we started the 31st of July 2017 was our first day open. And so this is our first summer, and boy, when the weather broke in March, I don't know, mid-March, whatever it was Katie bar the door. It was we're just trying to hold on and make sure we took care of everybody and made everybody happy, and we've done a nice job. I think our reviews speak for themselves, and
nice.
Our repeat customers and our referrals, those showing me that we're doing it the right way.
And that ties right into my next question, is what you think the biggest component to scaling your business has been?
So 2 things. I think in anybody's trying to open a new business in an established marketplace, it's all about branding. And that's what I did for 25 years. And Macy helps me out with that. She's as much of a brand as anybody. But it's how do you go up against somebody who's been here for 10 or 15 years? If anybody's looking to start a business, more than likely is somebody else doing what you do. There's a lot of people that know how to build web pages out there, and so you're faced with the same thing. How do you go out there and start something that's already being done, and get known? And to me, it was all about branding, and that's what I bring to the table. I've spent 25 years teaching people how to build their brand and to get it out there and to explain why you're different and why your customer base would choose you versus the next guy. And that's what we have really focused on doing. We've tried to tell the story of when we remove an item or items from someone's home or business, we're removing it just like the next guy would remove it, I'm guessing. There's one door and one set of steps and the desk that needs to go out of it.
And a couple guys to carry it.
The magic happens after we leave. And that's what I impart to the customer. That's where the difference is.
Okay.
So the branding is really important, and when people start to get an idea of how we do things a little bit differently, that's when it really started to take off. The other thing I think is employees. I can't be on every job in front of every customer. I'd like to be, but again, if anybody's starting a business and you're trying to scale it, you're only as strong as the people who are the face of your business. And so, while I've got, branding all over my trucks, my vehicles, and we get, people call and say, we saw your truck or we heard about you do this, or when my guys show up, if they don't follow through on that story, if they're just tossing things in the back of the truck indiscriminately instead of placing them like I talked about earlier, if they're not carefully dividing things so that it's, things that are recycled are on one side, things that are donated are on the other side, and the trash is in a small section, to the side. If they're not doing it the right way, then all that effort to brand and all the stories that you share with the public and the customer base, it's all for naught at that point. So it's really finding the right guys that treat it as more than a job, but understand that they're making a difference here in the community. And so that's a real key thing. I really vet out anybody who comes, and I really haven't had to run an ad for help or anything. Everybody has come to me through either people that I know or people that they know when they come on board, and they're like, hey, I've got a friend that I think that would be good for this or that's looking for this. And I not only do I vet them out, but I also make them I also do profit sharing with my guys after 90 days. So we start pretty quick.
Oh, wow.
And so that because I want them to be vested in what they do. That means they'll take more care of things. They're working to make sure that the referrals and the reviews online are good, because that's part of their profit sharing plan. They're graded on that kind of thing. They're graded on what they bring back to the shop and what kind of condition it's in. They're graded on how efficiently they work and how quickly they get from job to job and how low that disposal rate is. If it's up too high, I let them know. I said, listen, guys, you're cutting into your profit sharing. That's right off the top, on the bottom line of the company. So all those things, we've got a pretty good little plan that we've put together that they really respect and make an effort toward.
Yes, and then you've made it a vested interest.
Yeah, it's incentivized, big time.
That's great, and that ties right into my next question. Is my guess is you're going to say employees, your people, because this is what I'm hearing, and this is something that I'm also working through myself. I was a corporate citizen like you for 20 years. I stepped out just in June. And so
welcome to the
welcome
to the jungle.
Welcome to successful small business. It's been very eye-opening, and I've quickly realized in the past 4 months that I desperately need the right people. And what I thought I was going to be able to do mostly on my own, I'm realizing there's no way. So this is, as much for me as it is for my listeners. So when I ask you this, what is your secret, or talk about the keys to finding the right employees? And then again, you touched on it in your last spiel, but what are the real keys to finding people that are going to be able to, you can rest your business on their shoulders if you need to.
I think you have to have those conversations in the interview process, I'll call it. I don't like to call it an interview process. I really just like to get to know people. I want to find out, about them, not just, let's face it, my business doesn't require, a PhD. What it requires is somebody who is honest and who has integrity and wants, obviously they want to work. That's the challenge. That can be a challenge in today's society. But they also want to, they want to make a difference. And you find out a lot about them based on, how they've been brought up, what they've done to this point. Why aren't they currently employed, or why aren't they happy where they are currently employed? And I find that a lot of them are looking for more than just a paycheck. Particularly, a lot of people sort of scoff at today's millennial folks, and I've had a lot of success with some of the millennials that we've brought on board. They are looking for more than a paycheck. They want a quality of life. They want to make a difference. They have some goals, not only for themselves, but some goals for society, things they'd like to see happen. And when we explain to them how we do the business, it seems to really resonate with a lot of those folks. So I would say the vast majority of my guys are under 30 and are looking for to be proud of what they do and to be able to, let's face it, getting knee deep in somebody's stuff isn't necessarily the prettiest job.
Right.
We're not out there wearing Italian suits and things like that. But we are out there in the community. We're face to face with these people. They're happy. They're smiling when we leave. We've taken a great weight off of many of their shoulders. We've eliminated that, load of things that they've been staring at for however many weeks or months or even years in some cases. We've given them back some space. I deal with a lot of situations where wives are now, unfortunately, they may have lost a husband or something like this, and but he was the anchor that sort of kept that downstairs basement, full of his stuff. And now that he's gone, we've been able to find a home for those items, so they feel good about that. It's not being tossed away. But now, I do things. She's been able to now turn it into a sewing room or a reading nook or whatever, and tear down all those dark drapes and redecorate it and make it. She's got a new place. So it's just part of a next chapter of her life as well. So getting all that stuff out of your life can be very enlightening and very, energizing for a lot of folks. It's a neat. It's more than just throwing trash out. It really is.
Yeah, so I'm hearing that it's not only vetting people, but by virtue of your business model, you're attracting the right kind of employee that isn't just looking for a job. You're looking for a job and a little bit extra. Yeah. And so that's very interesting, because it's not just finding the right person for X job. It's making X job about more than just work.
Yeah, and I think you as the business owner have to paint that picture for folks. And I'm not perfect. I've had people come and go. I think to think that we've got secret sauce, that's not right. But I'm not sort of building my business and to the point where I have to take anybody that breathes. It's more I'm building my business based on the number of people as I bring them on. So when I've got a couple of solid guys, then I'll know it's time to get another truck, for example, and I can have another team out there, not vice versa. Not let me get the truck and then now I got to find somebody to staff it. It's sort of the opposite effect. So we're growing based on how our team allows us to grow, because otherwise, again, you're just like some of the competitors out there.
Yeah, so it almost is number one employee.
I would say
to scaling your business.
They are I would say 80 to 90% of the time they are the face of Junk Luggers of Central Virginia. I speak to just about every client on the phone, but I don't get a chance to meet every client, and so those guys are who they meet. That's who they see. That's who they assume Junk Luggers is, and we get, again, if you look at our reviews, it's consistent. Like, they're polite, well spoken. They cared. They did what they said they were going to do. That all these kinds of things. It's all employee focused. So that really makes me feel good.
Excellent. That's interesting. It gives me a lot to think about, actually. Because I'm not sure that while I do get involved in the nonprofit community and do lots of pro bono stuff, I'm not sure that's one of my drawing points right now to new employees. So that's interesting, how to utilize that and whatnot. So thank you for that.
Sure.
So on the other hand, conversely, what are some of the biggest challenge or the few biggest challenges have been to scaling your business? Although I don't know how many you've had, tripling your size in 16 months.
Well, equipment's expensive.
Stuff costs money.
Stuff costs money. It really does. As a matter of fact, if anybody out there is a business financial loan officer or something like that, I'd like to speak to you. I'm interested in looking at more effective ways to grow, because I don't pretend to have all the answers in that regard. It does cost a lot of money. My business is not. You have probably the advantage. Your business is relatively low overhead. My business is not as low at overhead as I would like. So we are challenged with cash flow, like any small business, to keep things moving in the direction that we want, and to be able to take care of our employees and provide items that you said pro bono, but donate things back and give money back to CKG and some of the other places that we support. So that's always a challenge. And again, trying to figure out where that next $1,000 is going to be best spent is important. And we want to support organizations like Synapse and be part of those groups. And these places, these all come at a cost, and you have to sort of really put what's the most important. It's figuring out where that valuable capital is going to go and be not only best for you, because you have to be in business next month to make it all worthwhile for
the
nonprofits, et cetera. But at the same time, where can I make the most difference? I had an option when we were donating the dollars and cents back to CKG. I had several charities come to me and say, why don't you just do several? We'd like to be part of the flock, do 4 or 5 or something like that. And I said, I really want to make a difference. I want to be able to donate enough to make a difference and to be able to feel like we were able to give enough to be able to add a new high school for the CKG Foundation this quarter. It takes $1,000 for each new school for them to take the program into, or to buy this or to get that. And so I just decided we're going to pick a charity once a year, and we'll decide whether we're going to renew with CKG this year, or maybe we'll do a different charity. We're talking to several for 2019. But that was important to me, to be able to make a difference in a significant one, not just a couple bucks here and there.
Gotcha. It's the difference between running a benevolent brand and a non-benevolent brand. That's a non-benevolent brand. That's a term I stole from Brian Greenwald of Bead Paws Consulting, and that's his stick. He works with brands almost exclusively that are benevolent brand, and Marc Smith from Mindus was on here talking about the same thing, and he calls it a little something different. But it just, it's the right way to run a business.
Well, he's a great model right there. Marc, he's a guy that I've watched really grow his impact in the community over the years, and so boy, that's a great one to emulate there. If we can ever hope to be anywhere near that success.
Well, I mean, your model is very similar in what it's doing, and it's definitely different logistically, but at its core, it's very much what he's doing. And that's, if anybody wants to really pick the brain of the show, the show I had on with Marc Smith, there's a ton to learn from what he says. That dude is on point on many levels, and customer experience is one of them. And man, there's a lot to learn. Yeah. Anyway, so my last question has to do with kind of the entrepreneurial grind. And that's actually the name of our friend Sam at Enzo's, his podcast or side brand. But what's your opinion on it? Because in my opinion, it's kind of what makes business owners, sets them apart. People who are able to push through in the late hour. Everything's fun when you start a business and it's new and everything, but when you're grinding away at the 30th day at the same thing and pushing through, what's your take on that? You think that's good, or do you think that's a bad way to go about it? Or and I hate the word entrepreneur to begin with. I'm a business owner. I really am not doing anything so unique and innovative that it's entrepreneurial in my opinion, but everybody has a different opinion on this too.
That's an excellent question, and one I've never really sort of stopped to ponder. But just off the top of my head, I would say, I think it's important to have that energy and that long-term focus of knowing what you're doing this for. Well, you said it, I think, when we started. What's your why? Why did you decide to do this? And to make sure you don't lose sight of that, in the depths of that grind, because it does get grind. Everybody else gets to go to sleep at 10:30, 11, 12 o'clock at night, and I glance at the clock and it's 2:15, and I know I got to be at the warehouse at 6, and but you got to do what you got. You got a lot of hats to wear in the beginning before you're anywhere near successful enough to be able to hand some of those responsibilities off to some of those key people that you bring on board as you grow. But again, so I think knowing why you're doing it, that's one of the things that gets you through. I think it's also important to know when to stop, because we're not, again, we haven't perfected this thing, so we're going to make mistakes, and you can't just keep doing the wrong thing, plodding along like a bull in a china shop, thinking that, well, if I just keep working harder, it's going to break eventually. Sometimes you got to recognize, hey, maybe I need to change my tack on this, and this is maybe not as fruitful as I had initially thought about it when I woke up at 3 a.m. with that idea in my head and wrote it down on the side table, which you find me doing as well. But at any rate, so I don't think you can't be scared to change tactics. Talk to as many people as you can, other successful guys. I find that surrounding yourself and developing relationships with other successful people and influential people will teach you a lot, and just finding out why they did what they did. And it may or may not correlate exactly with how your business operates, but you can probably find a nugget or two that align with what you're doing, and if you're smart, you'll take that and incorporate it into how you do your business, and you can avoid some pitfalls there, and get a few steps ahead possibly that would have taken you maybe months or years to figure out for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree with that statement, or the notion that you can grind super hard, but if you're doing things, stupidly or poor, that's not even the right phrase, but if you're just doing things poorly and without any sense, then that's not the right kind of grind. But if you have a clear vision of your end goal, and even if you have to pivot strategies or pivot paths to get there, but like you said, you got to do what you got to do. And if you've laid out an immense pile of work for yourself, that's the right direction. It still takes a certain kind of individual to, I want to do that. I'm not going to sleep or watching Netflix. I
think, entrepreneurs are driven people. They have a dream, and most of the time, these aren't quitters. They're going to plod along. Sometimes they need a little help and guidance from people like yourself. I'm certainly not I can't, I can barely turn my computer on and get on the internet. I'm anxious to learn from you all about how you do what you do. But so I can get a little bit smarter. But, it's bringing people on that are better than you in certain areas and learning from them. But entrepreneurs are they're spirited folks, or business owners. They've got a dream, particularly if they've started their business and they haven't just assumed it from a family member or something like this. I think patience is another big one. Success is not overnight, and there's a lot a lot of dark hours before the light, and you have those little flashes of success, and it's nice. And I think it's important to celebrate those, and not just go back to work, the next day. Sort of, take an opportunity to pat yourself on the back, or heck, take your wife out to dinner, or grab a weekend vacation if a short, long weekend or something like that, and celebrate those success. And make sure you include your employees on those. When you guys have a big win, make sure you take them or their significant other out to dinner. And because again, you just get caught up in, okay, we had a great day today, see you tomorrow, and it's like, so I try to take every opportunity I can to help them share with our wins. If we hit a certain sales goal, or we get a new truck, or we get our 100th job, or whatever the number is, whatever the success that you can do, and you can make them part of it. I think that's really important. Again, that'll go a long time for that longevity. And we all know how expensive it is to hire new help. The one thing that can really bog you down is to have turn when you have high turnover. So it's really important to retain those people. Once you've got a good one, it's easier to pay them an extra couple bucks if they need it than it is to go out and find another good one. So, try to give them every opportunity to grow within the organization, give them additional responsibility. It's tough. They're never going to do it the way that you would do it. That's one of the hardest things. They're going to do it their way, and it may still get to the same goal, but it may be just a little bit. And so you have to let go. It's kind of like having kids. You got to let them make a little bit of a mistake or something like this. And a lot of times you can learn from them. And they're like, maybe they did it more efficiently than you did it. And you're like, oh, I thought I knew everything. But, sometimes a fresh set of eyes attacking the problem come across and make a difference. So, yeah.
And it's been
don't have too much of an ego as a business owner, I guess.
That absolutely. It's been eye-opening to work with some other business owners and watch their ability to inspire people with ways that I really don't even understand yet, and speak to them with respect and challenge them, and all the while you're teaching them, but you're not wagging your finger at them. There's some people I've met recently, their management skills are just in a different universe than mine, and it's really amazing to watch them inspire people without ever throwing shade or a negative attitude or anything.
I think it's easy to tell somebody how to do something. It's much harder to step back and say, well, Blair, what do you think? How would you attack that problem? And then listen and see how that, now they've got some input. Instead of saying, hey, Blair, go do that. This is what I want you to do. Dot, 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 dot. Instead of saying, Blair, this is what we need to accomplish. What do you think we should do?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And then, boom. They're all of a sudden, really? Yeah, figure it out. Let's see what you come up with. Right? That really ties people to you and really enhances that relationship again with your employees and the people that work for you.
And it's been where the management individual, does that all under a positive, encouraging kind of spin. And it's just been interesting watching. It seems like you have the same type of skills there. So I'm trying to learn that as well.
Yeah, again, it's there's more than one way to skin a cat, I think as they say.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome, man. So that's it. We're gonna wrap it up here. Any parting words, announcements, or events? Anything you'd like to mention?
Well, certainly like our Facebook page. That's where we put out our announcements for our warehouse sale. And if you know of anybody who needs, in addition to obviously the junk and furniture and item removal, we also do small moving jobs. So if you just need a studio size or one bedroom job, the kind of job that the big companies don't want to bother with, we have people like Stewart Moving referring us to jobs all the time that they just can't be everything to everybody. So the small stuff they just send our way. Items need to be picked up at retail store and delivered back to your place. A lot of the retail stores don't want to have the trucks and the insurance and the employees for that, so they'll just have us come out and take care of that. So anything like that, storm debris damage here as we get into the wintertime, there's really not a whole lot we won't do. So give us a call.
And I'll link your website as well as your Facebook page in
Perfect.
in the description of the YouTube video.
Well, it's been great. I've really enjoyed the opportunity to come here and chat with you a little bit.
Well, thank you for coming on, Andy. Well, that's it, folks. Thanks for listening. And again, thank you for coming on the show, Andy. It was certainly a pleasure. Everybody have a positive and productive day. Cheers.
Cheers.